What's up, Isaac?
What's up, Austin?
We're back.
Thanks
Eddie?
for being here today,
All right.
chilling with us.
Hell yeah.
Got
Excited.
Eddie over here.
We're
He's
back
a little
for another
freed
one.
up.
Yeah, man. I like this. I like not having cables and stuff at my feet.
Yeah.
So this is cool.
It's got to be a lot less.
We got Judy over there pushing the buttons today.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Judy. Shorty's back there, too.
You know her from one of our previous shows.
Yeah, a couple of them now. Right on.
Nice.
So, Isaac, we were talking a little bit before we got started.
Yeah.
So let's see where you want to pick up. What's your life about? Where are you today? How are you feeling in this moment?
Well, I mean, it's fucking freezing in this room. And
Always.
that's just like a standard thing. But honestly, how I'm feeling right now, like this year's been, I mean, we're only in April, but like it's been a fucking whirlwind. And I guess, you know, the past year and a half that I've been with Rebel, it's been a new kind of experience for me, just working for a place that like I honestly believe in to the extent that I do with Rebel. And I mean, you could speak to that, and like you know, like this place is like one of a kind, and I've kind of just come into like, you know, I feel like we're happiest when we're, you know, being true to ourselves and doing something in our lives, career wise or whatever, you know, family man or, you know, whatever it is. If you feel like it's in line with your identity and your principles, like it's just enjoyable and it's fun and it's easy. Like I come to work and it's not like, you know, I don't have shit to do, and like there's some days where I'm like, fuck, there's so much, and like I'm stressed out and like my anxiety's through the roof because I got fucking school and all this other nonsense. But I don't know, the past year and a half, it just seems like my job is the one thing that's like, not the one thing, but like one of the main things that's just like, it's a support system for me rather than a stressor. And that's been really new for me because, you know, throughout my whole life, you know, I never like struggled going to work or getting jobs, but it's always like, I don't want to fucking do that.
Yeah.
You know, that fucking sucks, dude.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't believe in what I'm doing here. You know, the money's nice sometimes, but, and here it's like, you know, it's like, it's weird. It's not about the money here, and it's like it's great. I enjoy what I do. And I guess, you know, just to like take a step back, you know, I was working in treatment for the past 2-3 years in, you know, private treatment, and you know, for anybody who's done that, you know, it's very different than the nonprofit world. It's you know,
It sucks. Just say it. It sucks.
It
I've
sucks.
worked in treatment. I fucking hated it.
It fucking sucks.
It was the worst, man. It's like babysitting
It's babysitting.
adults.
Especially
You're a
tech.
glorified
You know what I mean?
babysitter.
Yeah.
I mean, we were probably there at one point. I'm sure. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I wasn't the best person back then too, but fuck, dude, it's tough. That's a tough job to have, man. You gotta have thick skin.
Yeah. And I mean, you're like, we've talked about it before, like in private treatment, for-profit treatment, like you're really confined in what, like, not just what you get to do like as a tech or something, but like how you can work with people in general.
What you can say.
Yeah.
You know, you say one thing to a client that's slightly off color with what, you know, the shit they're feeding them, and it's like,
Which
people
is
get
usually
fired.
12-step, you know, 12-step
12
stuff.
step, 12 step, you know.
Unless you go to like a faith-based
Right.
thing, you know.
Which even then, like, is often like a somehow like skewed like version of 12-step. I mean, like, it's all
Celebrating.
same
What is
it? What is it?
principle.
Celebrate
Yeah,
recovery?
celebrates
That-
the faith-based program. Yeah.
And that's like the whole thing with it. It's like the for-profit treatment and the faith-based, they both have the horse blinders on to like the rest of everything else. And it's like, it's almost because it's a liability for them to indulge that kind of thinking, even though that in the real world, it's not so simple. And, you know, I've learned so much, you know, just from working with you and like, you know, Matt, who used to work here, and, you know, a lot of other people, just like that, you know, the world's a lot bigger than that. And,
Yeah.
I mean, just to touch on like the 12-step stuff for a minute, like I you know, 12 AA saved my life. You know, I would never take that away.
For sure. No, I feel the same way. I'm the same way. I mean, I have different views now on what recovery is, at least for me. But yeah, no, I was faithful AA, never gonna do anything ever again. I can't, or I'm gonna be shooting dope again. You know, I had sponsees. I did the sponsors thing. You know, I did all of that.
Right.
And but
That's great. But
I don't think I'd be here now if I didn't. You know, at least not with the experience and the knowledge, because the 12 steps are great. Anybody can benefit, I think, from the 12 steps.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you know, they're very good. You know, I used to say that they're not designed to get you clean or sober. They just take you from a state of being unaware to being aware of your actions, behaviors, and things like that. And I think anybody can benefit from that. So
gives you some accountability.
Yeah, man, and it helps you, you know, look at yourself and down the road, I'm able to recognize when I'm doing something that, or feeling something that I need to deal with, or doing something or said something that I shouldn't have, you know, which that wasn't my personality before, you know. So yeah, that helped me grow up a little bit. I'd do it all the same if I could, but I just don't have those same beliefs, for the most part.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, like when you say like that anybody could do it, and I agree with that, and I mean anybody should do it or would benefit from it, you know. But like it pigeonholes itself. Like when you tell people like the only way to work this program is to be abstinent or clean and sober, and like there's so many more like options out there that somebody can still benefit from the principles and like the actual ideas behind step 1 through 12. But you know,
it's about the
really
principles.
Off-puts itself to a lot of people too.
Yeah.
And that's treatment in general. Like, you know, when you're told like this is only going to work like if you do it our way, and in some senses, like in my own experience, like I had to, in certain aspects, like go with that. You know, not in the treatment form. So it's like I didn't go to like a standard like rehab. Like I went to outpatient. But in the terms of like, I've been doing what I think is best for me for the last like decade, and it's not going too well. So maybe I should listen to, you know, somebody else. And in a lot of ways I benefited with that mindset, but in a lot of ways, like I also didn't. It was detrimental in some ways, you know what I mean? Like specifically like a certain medication that some doctor put me on in detox, and like I knew what the medication was, and I knew that there was no reason for me to be on that medication.
Right.
But I went with that whole thing, like, I'm just gonna do like what they say, because
let me not be a smart ass on this one.
Exactly. But
where it got me,
I got fucking terrible side effects. Like and when I got back down here, like to the outpatient, the doctor's like, "Why are you on this?" I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is just what the doctor put me on, and I went with it. But now I have akathisia, and I can't stop moving. And I Google akathisia, and it's like the one side effect of suicide. Yeah, because
fucking
like
wormhole.
Yeah, well, exactly, and like find out that like the only really bad thing that can happen with akathisia is suicide, because people like kill themselves because they literally cannot stop moving. Like I asked somebody like, will you come in and look at me when I go to sleep? Because I would go to sleep kicking my legs, and I would wake up kicking. So I'm like, I know that I'm sleeping some, but I really think I'm moving the whole time I'm sleeping. It does some whacked out shit to your dopamine and stuff. Certain medications do that, but that sidetrack all to say, like there's certain things, like I knew myself, this doctor's known me for a total of like 3 days before making the decision to put me on that, and a total of 2 weeks under his care. And I knew like this wasn't what I should probably do, like as far as the medication. And I was right. Like that, there are certain things that we know about ourselves that like other people just aren't going to know. But you go to treatment, and it's like, I mean, I've, you know, worked with people who are in treatment, and they're straight up told, like, if you don't fully surrender and go our way and like there's no give to it at all. You know, it's just like then if you're not willing to do this, you don't want it enough.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, that's not something that I ever want to be involved in myself, you know.
Yeah. And then you got the whole other side of it, which is the healthcare system, which like makes it so that you got the AA hardliners who are going to say you got to do it this way, and then you got the treatment center there who wants to keep you there, so they're going to kind of, and I don't want to say keep you sick, because there's a lot of things that treatment centers do that are great, and they save lives to a certain extent, but there's also like they're going to put you on medication so that in a way you're beholden to like this process of like, oh, you got to go to this doctor, you got to go to this doctor, and then you'll come out the other side and you'll get all these promises, and then you go to AA and you'll be you do what we say, and that's it. It's like, where's the original thought here? Where's the self-determination in that? And I understand like abstinence at first is like kind of a necessity, especially like I'll just speak for myself, like where I came out, I was shooting dope, shooting coke, like I couldn't have done anything if I hadn't stopped doing that shit. And like, you got to stop, but then it's like, okay, what do I need to work on so that I can get back to a place? And we talk about it in the harm reduction world, there's different relationships to substances, like everybody has different relationships to substances, and then you gotta take all that stuff into account.
It's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah,
because I definitely didn't have a good relationship with dope, but I have a great relationship with medical marijuana and psychedelics. Because I look at those as something that benefits my life. So I like how you put that.
Yeah,
because that makes a lot of sense.
And that's like what it comes down to. Like at the end of the day, is our relationship with the substance, and like those relationships can change too. Like same thing. Like I have a good and a healthy, beneficial relationship with cannabis, and same with psychedelics. But there was a time in my life where I had problematic cannabis use. Like I used cannabis chaotically and problematically, and I used psychedelics real problematically. Like there was periods where it wasn't of benefit, and it wasn't like any intentional type of thing other than like I just like to trip balls.
I still like to just kind of trip balls sometimes too.
Yeah, but there's a difference for sure. You know what I
sure.
mean? Like in terms of the way that I did it, like I don't know, planning out my semester around like, all right, when are my tests? When are these assignments? And so I can make sure that I can like figure out a week where I can take LSD for a week straight.
Yeah.
Like that's not a good,
that's a little too much. I mean,
that's
fuck,
as an
dude.
experiment. Like, let's see what happens when we do this. And I
that's
wasn't
a
the
lot
only
of
one doing
LSD, man.
Yeah.
Because
and
you got
have
to double up.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah, at least 150%.
So let's just say you ate one. Okay,
Yeah.
I want to do the math here. Let's just say you ate one on day one, okay? So that'd be 2 on day 2, 4, 8, 16, 30, 32.
Kind of. You got to double up for sure on the lowers. As you get a little higher, you don't necessarily have to double up. And I mean, it was good LSD.
36 hits of LSD if you doubled up every day.
So I didn't double up every day, but I did. I tripped every day.
Just kept it
for
going?
Sure.
You got to keep it going at that point.
I mean, right?
Fuck.
Never
Like,
really
you
came down. Just
Yeah.
kept it going.
Still tripping, dude.
right.
I'm just kidding, but maybe. But no, I mean we had vials, and it was a doable thing. Got them at like the second week of the semester, Memorial Day or Labor Day, whichever one's towards the August. You know, and like a couple of us thought it would be a good experiment to do, and it was like at the time. But
I mean, there's got to be a moment, because I know it happens to me when I'm tripping. I'm like, I just want it to be over.
it got
Oh, yeah.
exhausting.
And that's why
dude, a week.
in my old age, I feel like the shrooms are kind of a little bit nicer, and
Oh yeah,
for me
shrooms are way
these
more
days. It's
forgiving.
like, if I'm doing an acid trip, I need to fucking...
It's a commitment.
Yeah, I need to like...
Yeah, an acid, you wake up, you're tense.
We need an Airbnb. We need to fucking, take out a life insurance policy. Like, it's like a whole fucking thing.
But I mean, I went out of my way. What's up, Judy? It's frozen.
You good? We recording?
All right. So we established that acid is a commitment, right?
Yeah, we had a little bit of an issue for some reason. The recording program froze, which is why
Some power surges.
we had to
work
stop.
with what we got.
Yeah, I think we have a bad outlet, but hopefully we resolve that and it won't freeze this time. But
And just a note for our last episode, those of you, if anybody saw it, that's why it froze halfway through, and we just wanted to see if it didn't freeze like in the recording, but it did. So
I saw it freeze and I kept switching, but I was like, I don't know if I should stop it or if it's recording or if my computer just froze.
yeah.
But it did, so that's why that
took
happened.
the gamble.
So this time we've been looking out for it, and it happened again. So that's what that little break
Abrupt
we had to
pause.
take. Yep.
Yeah.
So, but we're back, and we were talking about LSD. You eating LSD for a week straight?
Yeah.
Fucking
Yeah.
nutter.
I mean, so like, yeah, that's probably like not the most healthy way to approach psychedelics.
No.
But also,
No,
I couldn't do it.
I was still in
I couldn't do it.
obviously, like I went out of my way to plan so like my grades weren't gonna suffer a lot, because like at Georgia Southern, like you didn't, like attendance wasn't like super mandatory,
Right, yeah,
and
maybe
so
show
like
up
as long as you
some
got
days.
shit
So
done.
not quite unmanageable yet.
No, not yet. But
I mean, dude, I
like,
ate 10.5 grams of mushrooms at fucking Universal Studios, and I thought that was a lot.
it is.
You know, like he's talking about a week straight.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, 10.5 grams over
It's
a
not-
period
yeah,
is
yeah.
different
Over a
than
It was
period,
over
usual
like a
ones.
12-hour, you know.
Oh, that's
I
fine.
Yeah.
ate one in the
Yeah.
morning, and then sometime around, noon-ish, you know, when I came out of the peak, I ate
Yeah.
another one, and then I ate another one at the hotel.
Usually
by the pool.
You have to like. I mean, it's the same thing with mushroom. Your tolerance goes up. It's like most of the time with mushrooms, if I try to like eat more, doesn't necessarily like I don't ever get back
you're not gonna get back
there.
to the
It just
peak,
kind of
yeah.
prolongs some of the.
I don't know, man.
like-
You gotta eat
Yeah.
a substantial
Yeah.
amount.
Well,
more.
okay, so I ate an eighth,
You're kind of just munching.
and then once I came out of the peak, right,
Yeah.
I still wanted to stay in the peak because I had more rides to
Yeah,
ride.
yeah.
So I ate another one, and it did. It brought me back up. It did. And then when I was by the pool, I ate another one, and it brought me back up.
True.
But I think because I was in that mindset for, all day,
Yeah.
that it wasn't, the peak just wasn't, it wasn't fresh.
Yeah. It wasn't
So
quite as
I was kind of going with
obvious.
it, and I had started drinking by the pool, and then I remembered I had the
that'll
other bar.
Kind of bring it down.
Yeah, so instead of going into a peak for the
Landing
third
gear.
one, it was just really chill. You ever drink on mushrooms?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
landing-
different.
yeah,
It's a
landing gear. Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
different kind of drunk. Like you get to the point where I don't know if it's the alcohol or if it's
Yeah.
the mushroom.
Mushrooms
Like,
kind of make you
kinda
drunk.
did like a switch flips. It's when the mushrooms start wearing off, and you realize how drunk you
No,
are,
it's
and
almost
it
like
just,
doing
smacks you in the
coke,
face.
man. It's almost like doing coke while drinking. You know what I mean? How you
Oh, I
can
see
drink
what-
all
not
fucking
similar effect.
No,
but the
no.
same, I got.
yeah,
what
yeah.
you're
You know how
saying.
you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
drink and drink and drink, do a bump
Yeah.
of coke, and it doesn't even feel like you're drunk.
Right,
You know,
yes,
that's
yeah.
kind of how it is with the mushrooms. Like I don't feel myself getting drunk, and I still have
right.
I still have energy, and I'm still seeing, you know, everything still looks like an oil painting or whatever. You know what I mean? But I'm just not as out of my mind as I would be.
Right.
But it's I like drinking coming down off of mushrooms because it's such a chill.
Yeah. I mean,
feeling
alcohol will
to me.
definitely deaden the psychedelic effects of mushrooms, you know.
Yeah.
There's a negative synergy with it, but
It's a different
landing
it's,
gear.
It's
Yeah.
a different kind of drunk / trip.
Yeah.
You know, the mushrooms don't go away.
right. No,
It
yeah.
just there's
yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it. You know, it's a different kind of feeling, and it's a nice chill way to come down off
Mm-hmm.
mushrooms. But yeah, I kept my party going all day while I was up there. I think
Hell
I
yeah.
went a full 12 hours, probably even longer than that, because I think we started at like 7 in the morning
Mm-hmm.
because we had the fast passes and we were at the hotel, so you get in before everybody else. So I think we got up a little earlier, went out there. Yeah, it was a long day of
As long as you're safe
tripping,
about
man.
it, you know.
A lot of fucking kids, though, man.
Yeah.
Kids,
Bro, that was the
I
worst
remember there
month.
was a July 4th one time.
Fuck
I was
that.
like candy flipping, dude, and there was fucking kids there, man, and I was like, bro, these kids are gonna attack us. Dude. Like, I fucking felt threatened by these kids, dude.
Buildings were my worst enemy. I couldn't fucking navigate through buildings up there, man. And that was fucking hard, man. Well, because they have the lines that they do this, you know, they snake around and all that, you know, and with all the, bro, I can't do lines, man. You know, I'm running into shit. I don't know which way to go. It's fucking terrible.
Any like straightforward, like fundamental thinking just becomes really hard on psychedelics. Counting money is impossible. So many times I've just
look at your phone.
Yeah,
trying to send a text message. You're like,
oh no, when I trip, I leave my phone. I shut that bitch off. I'm not looking at that thing. I don't care.
I kind of like it. It's like kind of like a challenge, you know. I turn it into like a fun game. Like, am I gonna be able to fucking type a message here? Like, what is gonna happen?
Dexterity is really weird on any psychedelic. Words. Side note, as far as like the cocaine and alcohol, I think we've talked about it before, but for our drug users out there, combining cocaine and alcohol produces a different drug, cocaethanol, so
and deadly.
Be safe about it. Can be dangerous. A lot of people don't necessarily realize that because they think, like you said, like do a little bump of coke, come down, but just wanted to put that out there, like that, you know, a lot of it's important to be aware of, you know, that
it's funny how commonplace it is.
Exactly.
You know?
Mixing anything could be dangerous.
The kind of standard, like, party, you know, where you get hammered and then do a bump, you know?
I mean, that's the shit. Like, that's why we have, like, this show and, like, talk about these things. Like, so much of that stuff is kind of, like,
especially with all the
put under the rug. Oh, yeah, the fentanyl adds a whole other thing. Yeah. But when you have, like, something that should be straightforward and common knowledge, but because of the fact that it's illegal and like there's stigma attached to it, like nobody's teaching their kid, like, hey, just so you know, like, if you combine alcohol and cocaine, like it can be potentially dangerous.
Like, don't
and
take
it's
3 bars and drink a bottle of vodka kind of shit, but like that's even less obvious, you know? Like,
exactly. Nobody's teaching their kids that shit, you know? Which kind of brings me to my next question, I guess. So I like to ask people, because it's a big part of kind of my story and my experience, like intro to drug education. And like, what was your like early experiences or like first exposure to the idea of drugs? Because like drugs weren't in, like I had a neighbor, like a Bo and Mary, which like you can probably guess, like they super chaotic and like heroin users, and I was like 5, 6, like I didn't know. I just knew that, like, you know, it wasn't a good situation, and like she would come over to our house. I have a vivid memory of like a Christmas morning, her coming over to our house, like basically for sanctuary because Bo was beating her up. And, you know, I remember like track marks and stuff, and I know like my mom would sometimes take Mary to the methadone clinic and stuff, but like I didn't know what was what, you know. I didn't really have any thought of drugs until my introduction to drug education, and then I got really interested in drugs and became the drug nerd that I am. Yep.
Jesus Christ.
So what about yours? What was like your...
I guess, you know, I was peer taught. I guess you could say that. But, you know, just to go into my own little family history and dynamic there, I had a neighbor as well, whole family, who one of the dads there was selling crack out of the house. He's like literally our next door neighbor. And they were always like on the stoop, like in Brooklyn, you got a bunch of stoops, like everybody's got their brownstones and they hang out outside drinking whatever. And, you know, my parents don't do drugs. They, you know, they'll drink a bottle of wine at dinner, you know, like, so they're, you know, my mom gets pissed at my dad for drinking 3 glasses when she's only had 2, you know, that's the kind of people they are. So like, they're like, those people are the devil, you know, like they're going to steal your soul. Don't fucking talk to them. So of course I'm over there talking to these guys, you know, smoking blunts with them. And, you know, that was kind of my introduction to it. And, you know, good thing I didn't get into the harder stuff when I was still, you know, living in my parents' house. But, you know, that was kind of my introduction to it. And then, you know, going to public high school in Brooklyn, you know, obviously there was a lot of, you know, I guess ecstasy was kind of like the first one that kind of came on the scene when I was in sophomore year. Like that was really, and then Xanax, you know, pretty much the same time. But it was funny because I had like such a polar opposite like situation from when I was in elementary school. So my parents sent me to a private elementary school where I was around like all these middle class kids whose parents were pretty much, you know, doing the same stuff, not really, you know, kind of lace curtain, you know, trying to keep their kids sheltered. And the funny thing about New York is like you got to test into your high schools, which is weird. And then you go off to these different high schools and they're all public. So like I go from like this private school where, you know, where like, I guess middle school is when like I first smoked weed and like it was a very, you know, innocent thing. Like I think the worst thing I did was like I pissed in my boy's closet and like his mom like found it the next day. She's like, what's this fucking puddle here? And my buddy was like this like chubby little kid named Ben. He's like, you pissed in my closet, but why do you do that? I'm like, dude, I don't remember that at all, bro. And like, I think like someone was sleeping in there when I did it. I was like trying to pee on my buddy.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just how I was at that age. Like, I just always had to take everything to the fucking nth degree, you know?
Yeah. Weren't we all just pissing on each other?
Exactly.
I
you know?
can't
It's
say
just-
I've ever pissed on anyone.
Dude,
No, I can't. I don't have
I
that
had
one
a
in my
thing with
wheelhouse.
Pissing and shitting growing up, you know, like, and it didn't just stop there either. I actually like, there was this chick who was like really mean to my boy, like cheated on him or something, and we had this great idea. And like my best friend John, I found a Tiffany's box in somebody's garbage, and I had him take a shit in it. And then we had we had someone give it to her for her
See where
birthday.
that's
Oh no, dude!
A fucked up thing to do. She kind of deserved it. She probably didn't, but it was
I'm not
fucked
sure
up.
anybody deserves that.
no.
God
I mean,
damn, man!
She really hurt my buddy, so you know that's my rationalization. I'll be taking
I'll
that
show
me,
her.
bro.
I'll show her. I'm gonna shit in this box and give it to her.
Yeah.
It's a shit in a box.
It's the shit in the box. And then we had that whole thing. There was like this website we found called mailpoop.com. And we like did that. We tried to like find teachers' addresses and we were like mail and poop. And we were always wondering like you can mail cow poop or dog poop or human poop. There was like several options. I don't,
no
I
idea
don't
this
think it's
existed.
still around, but
Who thinks of this shit?
Dude, I'm telling you.
Who thinks of, hey,
Fucking
let's start a
13-year-old
website
boys,
so
dude.
people can
That's-
mail poop?
Mailpoop.com.
That's amazing.
Dude.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
I think they
Can we look that up?
they
I wanna see if
definitely
that's
shut
still a
that
thing.
shit down
Yeah.
because it can't.
Judy, could you look that up?
Yeah, look that up if possible.
I want to know
I
if
wonder
that's
it's
still a thing.
around.
Yeah, I had no idea that exists. I feel like
You-
that's
I-
the kind of thing that like at least would have gotten around. Like,
Oh,
It's the kind of thing that you wouldn't think about.
yeah, it still
It still
exists.
Still exists?
Oh, my
yeah.
goodness.
I'm glad they kept that around. People need that. You know? I mean, the question is really like, how much money are you saving going to a third party for that service? You know, like, you could just get a box and take a dump in it and
Right.
send it to that person.
Yeah.
Or do they supply the poop?
They supply the poop.
Oh,
That's
they
the whole
supply the
thing.
poop. So
Oh.
there's.
And you can have different kinds of poop.
Wow, what a service!
So I can go there and order dog poop and have
Yeah.
it shipped to somebody,
I'm pretty sure
or
there's-
human
there's-
poop.
There's several.
There's
got to
be some kind of like
different kinds.
that. There's got to be some kind of hazard to that, like shipping someone poop.
Oh,
Yeah,
for
no,
sure.
it's
That's a
definitely not
biohazard.
legal.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you can't like be doing that.
Yeah, I don't think
It's
anybody
gotta
owns
be-
stock in that company or
No,
anything like that.
which is why I'm surprised it's still around. Like,
Yeah.
that's honestly amazing.
And how do
wonder
I
where they're
know? How do
sourcing
I
their
know
poop.
that the poop I ordered is actually dog poop?
DNA test.
That's
Where's
the question.
Quality
Where's
control.
quality control
where's the
here?
quality
You know,
control on that, man?
what the fuck just happened?
It's wild.
That's very good to know.
yeah.
Oh,
Alright.
that's fucking crazy.
You know, 13-year-old shit.
So we're giving chicks
intended.
shit. We're mailing teachers shit. We're pissing on our friends.
I mean, this is just, this is just very telling of where my life was going.
Yeah, okay.
In the toilet. Like in the fucking toilet.
Yeah.
For a good while there, you know. and I
Good
had to-
lord, man. Doesn't
had
sound like anything made it into your toilet, bro.
yeah. That's a good point.
Oh
I mean,
man.
But
Where do we go from here?
yeah, where do we go?
So we left. I mean, we're taking ecstasy and messing
Right,
with shit
so
and
I
piss.
guess
So
the drug education of my life,
did you have any? Did you have
and
Dare?
that's the
Did
thing,
you
we
have
didn't
any?
have Dare in my school.
Huh.
we had sex ed with my coach, who I coached soccer.
Okay.
And this is one of those guys who wore shorts no matter how fucking cold it was outside.
And
His
in
name
New
was
York.
Coach Padula.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was a fucking scumbag. I'm pretty sure he like had sex with at least one minor every semester, like on the lacrosse, because he coached girls lacrosse. This guy was a total fucking scumbag. He's like teaching us about chlamydia. You know, it's like a cliche. It's such a cliche.
Yeah. Some shit in the
dirty.
show.
Yeah. So I mean, and you know,
I think I saw a Degrassi episode like that when I was a kid.
dude, like it's so ridiculous. It's like how. And that's the whole thing. And it's another political thing. You know, you don't get a real drug education, and you don't get a sex education. You know, you got to kind of figure it out for themselves. Every kid has to figure it out for yourself. And who knows if you're getting the right information? You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beyond that, I mean, like I guess I was, you know, it's what you put your time into. You know, because like at the time, the school was just not appealing to me, and you know. And the idea of like high school, college, you know, and then I'm gonna, you know, work and be in some suit, you know, that was just like, fuck that. So let me put my attention into like figuring out, oh, how am I gonna sell some weed, or how am I gonna, you know, I don't know, get pills, and it was like started the Xanax, and then, you know, I ended up getting caught because I'm fucking 15 years old and I'm an idiot, you know, like that was like my drug education, and I ended up finding the people who were, you know, on the same level. You know, water finds its level, and I was around the people who, you know, wanted to do the same things. And right away, you know, 14, 15 years old, I was hanging out with guys who, you know, were going to jail, weren't going to school. You know, I ended up getting arrested. I ended up getting sent away actually to like a military boarding school when I was 16 years old, which, you know, it's actually where I really did get kind of a drug education, because they started getting into like the real like they had like substance abuse classes, you know, where you had to take, and they actually told you what you were doing to yourself, which is, you know, not every kid gets that, and it's good that I got that. Didn't do me a whole lot of good in the beginning, but eventually I kind of.
Were they fear-based, fact-based?
They were fact-based. It was like the teachers were, you know, therapists and counselors, and you know, there was a science teacher there who, you know, gave us some kind of biology of addiction, and you know, there was definitely some fact to what they were teaching, and there really wasn't AA at that. They weren't pushing AA at that point, which was cool about that school, because, you know, you're 15, 16 years old, you know, trying to get kids to go to AA. I think they realized that was a little out of the scope. Yeah. You know, we went to one or two, I think, but it was like, we honestly weren't even allowed outside the property. I was there for like 2 years. I like literally left the fucking plantation. It was in Montana, which was a whole nother fucking story. Crazy thing that was. But
so to circle back for a second, on something that you said, as far as like what you put your time into and like where your kind of interests went, you know, if I look back on my own experiences, like I could definitely identify with that. But, you know, it reminded me of some conversations that we've had in the past, as far as like options out there for people and like what's out there in the world, and like the idea of like you were saying, like the standard, like graduate, go to college, wear a suit, work, do whatever, you know, like did you have like a dream or an idea of what you wanted to do? Did you have like specific goals and ambitions, or like would you say that a lot of like the directed drive and energy put towards like substance use was just directed because it didn't have another direction?
Yeah. So, you know, at that time, it felt like, you know, I was fighting the good fight. You know, it was like, this is my fight, because I look around and I see all these, you know, adults and working professionals, and they look fucking miserable to me, and I don't want that. I didn't really realize, I didn't have the perspective to say that, you know, maybe that person's just fucking miserable. Maybe that has nothing to do with the fact that, like, you know, they're going through something. But I always looked at it as like, you know, they're living these lives based on, you know, ideals and beliefs or religion. And, you know, I was raised religious. I was raised Jewish, and they, you know, they impressed all these religious beliefs on me, and there's all this guilt about like what you're not supposed to do, you know, don't do this, and you know, you're supposed to grow up and get married and have children, and it just sounded like all this, like, it was, everything in life was kind of built around restraint and like repression. Like, we don't, you know, you should repress these urges. And I was like, fuck that. Like, you know, I found something that fucking makes me happy every fucking time. Like, what, I don't know what the fuck you guys are doing. Like, it looks like fucking boring and looks like bullshit, you know?
Squares.
Yeah. And that's really the whole thing. And like, and, you know, getting back to your question, like, it was like, I felt like, yeah, I had no other purpose. I hadn't found another purpose. So like, the drugs kind of became my purpose. It was like, that's like the purpose to my life, is just to like have the most fun possible. And it was like this kind of like, and then it turned to like this nihilistic, like, I don't give a shit about anything kind of stuff. And then when you kind of, I guess, to jump ahead from a couple years, when I realized all that's bullshit, and like, you can't just like, you know, there's more to life than just having a good time every second of every day. And like, you know, that's, at the end of the day, yeah, you might be in a state of euphoria, and like the hedonistic way I was living was like pleasurable at times, but at the end of the day, I felt shitty. I did not like who I was. I did not like who I was becoming. And it wasn't society's fault. It was my fault. You know, I was doing it to myself because I thought I was, you know, just, you know, going against the vein.
Yeah.
Well, we don't realize how there's going to be that turn eventually, because like you said, it made you happy at one point.
Right.
We wouldn't have kept doing it if we weren't having a good time.
Yeah. Fuck
You know, but I heard a guy say it best. He's like, it stopped doing things for me and started doing things to me.
Yeah.
And you know, so too much of anything's not good.
Right.
You know, and you find that thing that you love, just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. One day it's going to turn on you. It's going to change.
Especially like something like a substance in general, you know, like that's just chemistry and like biology as far as like your brain goes. Like you can only,
it goes
only
from
works for so long, but even like
it's called the hedonistic adaptation, or I think that's it. I thought I saw it on somebody's fucking wall sometime.
It sounds
hedonistic
good.
adaptation, because once you know, it's just how our brain adapts to, you know, stimuli. We bring in more and more and more,
and then it craves more and more and more.
We need to get more to produce the same effect.
You got to get that dopamine threshold to, you know, and when you're getting high, your dopamine threshold is so much higher than a normal person where, you know, sex would get you here.
Yeah.
Drugs get you here.
Yeah.
So now sex doesn't feel good anymore, you know, shit like that.
Yeah.
But your body's always craving that. I need you to meet my dopamine feed.
And your brain is matching that dopamine too with, you know, like what goes up must come down and everything. Like how the brain's all about like fighting for homeostasis and balance. So you know, like that's what causes withdrawal is you know, you're making up for all this dopamine that you've just dumped out, you know. But I think in life too, like that's like our substance use, and it's like a basic, like really understandable thing. Like you do too much of this, like you stay high for too long, like you don't get high anymore. But just in life in general, like there's no, like, it sounds cheesy and cliche, but there's no ups without downs, you know. Like it's you can be in like shitty weather for a week, and then like it's sunny and clear out, and like it's fucking amazing,
magical.
But then like if it's always sunny and clear out, you don't think twice about it. Yeah. I mean, it's same shit. Like you got that's life, and we kind of stop experiencing life when we're just always at this place and always looking for like just that high, you know.
It becomes survival. It stops being a party. Stops being fun, and it becomes survival. And it consumes your thoughts, and all you want to do is figure out a way to get the next one. You know.
because it can't be a purpose. You know, getting high can't be the purpose.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Well said.
And that's what I realized. Like, that's what I think anybody who like goes through this transformation, like, you know, and like just to get back into AA for a while, the reason why AA is so amazing, or one of the reasons, and, you know, I told this to like sponsees and just people brothers who I, talk to about it. It's like AA gives me a purpose, and that's why it's so great. And that's why belief is so great, and that's why religion works so well, Karl Marx, religion is the opiate of the masses. It's going to heal your pain, or it's going to abate your pain for a period of time. It's same with AA. You have this purpose that you are supposed to go out there and help your fellow alcoholic. You're supposed to make the world better. That gives us strength. That gives us a reason to go on and do something besides getting high. And that's all well and good, and that's awesome. And nothing wrong with that. It's just like, as I evolved and as we have evolved, we realized that that is our purpose, but it's not as simple as the substances were doing that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It wasn't the substances that were taking away our purpose. I guess it was, but it wasn't.
It was it was the fact that the substances were the purpose, but it does.
Yes.
So a couple things, we all have this, I believe, as humans, and I genuinely believe this, and I don't mean it in a religious sense, but I think religion happens to fit the bill of it, or fill that hole. Is we all have the quote unquote God-sized hole, and that I don't mean you're necessarily your Judeo-Christian God or whatever God, religious, organized religion, but humans have always, when there's an absence of religion in societies, there's still religion. It's just different, you know? And I think we can see that in a lot of ways now in our own society. The religious practices of established and organized churches, that's gone down drastically in the past couple decades. But you see other, the way certain ideas are held by groups of people, that all becomes a religion on all sides.
It's a belief system.
And that fills that place in us. But
religion
as far as right,
pretty much.
But as far as the purpose and where drugs fit in, and when drugs become your purpose, I mean, you look at we were talking a couple weeks ago, you look at the 60s and they were filled with drugs, but people were using drugs left and right and all sorts of different types of drugs. And then but there was this underlying purpose that everybody had this drive to whether it was with the hippie movement and against the Vietnam War, or there was
more
so much
direction.
happening, racial social justices and the movement to, why is my brain burping right now? What did Kennedy help? Civil rights,
Civil rights,
Those things.
Those things.
Yeah. There was so much happening, and you look now, it's we're very prosperous as a society, and we don't have this same
drinking our own Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and drugs, the way I look at, and that honestly, that's a big part of what got me into drugs, aside from just being interested in that, was the culture behind it. And I put a lot of stock into hippie culture and 60s movements and stuff. I idolize, a lot of those guys, musicians and theologists, philosophers and stuff from that time. And I kind of that, I felt in my substance use, especially with psychedelics, that I was carrying that on and carrying that torch, so to speak. And in some ways, you can, but what do we have to really, I don't know, the way I view the shift in the way people use drugs now is back then, and even for me initially, I got high to enhance an experience and to make something more fun. And it seems today, people, the kids these days, get high for oblivion. You know, like it's just seeking oblivion and just to get
avoidance.
out of this world, as opposed to like make more of like whatever is around me, you know?
Yeah.
And like you look at like Woodstock 99, we were talking about like that. It's a great documentary, and like it's fantastic social commentary, just because like, you know, they felt like, just looking at it, like they wanted to be like the next Woodstock, but you got fucking like Limp Bizkit and Metallica and like who are they?
Fucking angry.
Yeah, and it turned out to be disastrous, and like people setting fire and breaking shit.
Yeah,
literally break shit, because like there's just nihilistic and like we're angsty and angry, but we don't know why, kind of thing. Like we don't have
nothing
anything
to be angry
to fight
about.
for.
Yeah,
we just know that we got that angst and something to do with it, but no real direction or purpose. And I see that, like, you know, like, do you feel like you see that like maybe in your own experiences, or like with how it is now?
Yeah, I guess even going back like 10 years, you know, or 15 years, I feel like it's different.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I guess I don't want to say how people get fucked up, but like just the way in which they do it, it just seems like so much more belligerent, and like the goal is just to get fucked up. It's not like to, and not to say there's anything wrong with that necessarily. We can have a good time and, like, you know, drink and party and do all this, but it's like there's nothing, there's no like, and you know, I'll go to parties and maybe I need to put myself around some new fucking people, but sometimes I'll go to parties and I'll just be like, all these people are either talking about their money and their job, and like all this, their fucking, the deals they're closing, and like, you know, I guess that's like fun. I don't know, maybe it's just not my cup of tea, but it's like there's just like this need to like want to like what am I saying? Like saber rattling, you know? You want to like get fucked up, and then like pretty much what they did in Woodstock 99, just like fucking like, you know? Like it's just like, we don't really know like why we're so angry or why we want to get so fucked up, but we're going to do it, and then we're going to fucking, you know, beat on our chests and fucking like say a bunch of fucking disrespectful things to like women, and like, you know, and fucking disrespect people. It's like, I don't know, dude.
Look for a fight.
Exactly.
Yeah, I knew tons of guys like that.
Yeah, there's some bit, I think it's Louis C.K. talks about how like guys will go out in like groups of 5 and like expecting to all get laid. It's like,
it's either Louis or Bill Burr.
It might be
one or the other.
Dude, it's so funny. I love that shit. So
yeah.
What you guys gonna run into like a giant vagina? Like all 5 of you are just gonna run into a giant vagina, and then like, no, that doesn't happen. So like, let's like pick on the drunk guy at the bar and like beat the shit out of some random asshole. You know, it's like
But I mean, even look at the drugs now, like fentanyl. Like it's
just getting
anesthesia, dude. Like that, it's fucking anesthesia. Like fentanyl was never what I was after, even when I was in that survival state and like substances were no longer enhancing anything. I was like a houseplant, but like. It's straight, like it's all the sedation, none of the euphoria. Like it's not even heroin anymore. Like I used to like really like playing guitar and like jamming out with people like on dope, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I was doing stuff like people just straight look for the oblivion and just being out and then waking up sick. You know? That's fentanyl basically.
Yeah. It boils down to the same thing you were talking about, like how you used to have a bad relationship with cannabis. And it's like, I did too. Because when I was in fucking high school, I'd avoid everything just to smoke weed. And I would smoke weed to the extent I'd be fucking like having cerebral palsy. Like I couldn't even fucking move, you know? I'd go straight into like, you know, I can't speak, I can't think, you know? Like to have a conversation is just like the hardest thing to do in the world. Like that's not fun, you know? It's like just trying to avoid something, you know? I'm just trying to like push whatever I should be doing or I think I should be doing or the guilt I'm having just out of my head. You know? It's like,
I've sold shit for weed. I sold a bike for weed, like in college. Like, it's fucking weed, dude. Like, you know, like
Yeah.
a few years later, like if I told myself that, like what? But like that's where my relationship was with cannabis at the time, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
relationships to substances change, and, you know, like as we grow, and like that's just what that's about, you know? And I think the simplicity, like we were talking about earlier, like that straightforward thing of AA is definitely good for people. Like, and some people, like, that's just what they need, like
Yeah.
that simplicity.
Yeah.
But, you know, like for myself and for so many other people, like there comes a time through growth and stuff where, like, you know, I didn't get into recovery to like go to a meeting a day,
Yeah.
for, you know, forever. Or to stand up and chair a meeting, or like that's not why I went to recovery. I'll take somebody to a meeting and like help the next person out, because like that's what we do. But like I got into recovery to thrive and to like live my life in a fulfilling way.
Yeah.
You know, and like if part of that means not being abstinent, then like that's what it means for me.
Yeah.
And that is what it means for me, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Different strokes for different folks, so to speak.
Yeah, for some people, abstinence is absolutely the only way. I know a few that have tried to, you know, have a drink here and there and smoke a little weed or whatever. Nothing crazy, and next thing you know, they're smoking crack. Or
Yeah.
I'm getting a phone call at 4 a.m. talking about there's kids outside my apartment with cones on their head. What the fuck? Like, you need to go to bed. When was the last time you slept?
The bed or the hospital.
Dude, it's crazy shit, you know.
Yeah.
But that was somebody that thought that they could, you know, drink a little bit, and then it turned into drinking every day, you know. And the amount that she was drinking was increasing every day.
Yeah.
You know, she was doing weed and all that, and smoking weed. You taking the
pots.
pots?
I did a
Are you
marijuana.
taking the pots?
Doing pots.
I did one marijuana.
Do one pot.
Then it went to coke, then it went to crack, and then it went to, you know, people outside my apartment, and there's nobody there. You
Yeah.
know? So I absolutely believe that at different strokes for different folks, like you said, everyone's different.
Yeah.
But you know, for some people, I think abstinence is probably absolutely the only way.
For sure.
You know, everyone's different, I think. And, you know, so far for me, it hasn't become unmanageable,
Right.
you know, as they say.
Yeah.
And, you know, good things are happening. So,
You
know, I-
continuing to move forward.
well, because I look at things,
growing.
I look at things now as how does this benefit me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, shrooms, they're great for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
You know, anything from depression to narcolepsy. I know I heard of somebody that microdoses for narcolepsy and has great success. So,
I've heard about that,
you know, there's all kinds of benefits from psychedelics. And then, you know, I'd do the weed for sleep and anxiety and stuff like that, just to keep me a little more level.
Yeah.
So, and it hasn't turned on me, thank God, you know, because I don't look at it. I'm not chasing it to get
Right.
high.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
doing it because I feel like it's some kind of benefit from it, which I think if you have that kind of mindset, it's much safer, you know?
Totally. I mean, that's always been my approach, like, since I got into recovery, really, to, like, any of those choices that I make or decide to make. Like, is this beneficial to my recovery in some way? Like, is this going to help me in some way, or is this going to be, like, detrimental to my recovery in my life? And make a decision based on that. And I think, like, anybody can do that. But like you said, like, for some people, it's just not. I mean, I know somebody, you know him too, like, that went out on kombucha. Like, they happened to
shit.
drink like a large amount of kombucha
Yeah.
and got that little, like, warm feeling, because there's a very small amount of alcohol in kombucha. But I know
Well, it's
what he's
fermented,
talking
isn't it?
about. Yeah, I know what he's talking about, though. Like, I've
Yeah.
drank kombucha, like a regular size bottle, relatively quickly, and I've gotten that warm feeling in the chest. Like, it didn't do anything else to me, but, like, in this, he's told me, like, that for him, and, like, abstinence is his harm reduction, and that's the only way for him to, like, reduce harm, because he can't. But he's also kind of said that AA did that to him, and like he, you know, like it's a positive and a negative, because like the mindset of it was because it's been drilled into him, and AA is what worked for him, but because it's been drilled into him, he literally like took
Once
that.
you have that belief,
right,
gives you the excuse not to finish your sentence.
No, but that's exactly what it is. He finished that kombucha, felt that, and then in his mind, well, I'm already there.
Yeah.
So then we went out and got a beer, and the next day fucking getting Dilaudid and whatever else, you know, because, and like he's acknowledged, like, I mean, this person told me recently, like, I don't think, like, I've tried to like just like do a little bit, and he's like, I don't think it's ever gonna work for me, because it's so instilled that if I do one thing or just a little bit of this or that, then I'm already in, and there's not even a choice in their mind to not go overboard with it. And there's not a way for him to reduce harm, because that's just what it goes to for him.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks. But like, you know, he wasn't saying it in a way that like, it was like a good and a bad, because like this is what works for him, and he knows, and like this is what it's going to be. But also like, it's just interesting to see like how certain approaches and the way like, you know, we look at some of those things can shift our mind, and how much that can affect us like potentially forever, you know?
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, do you take this belief so rigorously that you're, you know, gonna say that you have no willpower, because it's
that's the basis.
It's the basis of all of it. And you know, I don't know.
I mean, that's probably true for some people, though. You know, like some
It's
people
hard
just
to say.
don't.
I mean, it definitely is once they're in there. You know?
Yeah.
I mean that.
Some people just don't have that off button.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a chicken or the egg kind of thing. You know, like, is that, and it's probably both, you know, there's probably a large amount of people who like that off button was taken away when they went to treatment and were told like all of these things, and this is, and again, it worked for them and saved their lives, but it also took away that off button, because it's a full indoctrination. Other people may have just straight up never had that off button, and, you know, may genuinely have this allergy, but I would say that there's a bit of both for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and what if there's other ways? And obviously there is, like we do it, but you know, it's interesting. It's not to put a value judgment on anything, but it's just interesting to look at the way like we approach drugs and drug use, like completely affects how people use drugs. Like you were talking about the medical marijuana thing, and like for me, even just the fact that it's legal and I go to a dispensary and like I'm not doing the whole like texting, and I mean there's a lot that goes into it, because like if I'm getting from a black market dealer, there's a chance that they have other stuff, and I'm not being offered blues or whatever else at a dispensary. But even without that, like in my head, I'm doing something that's illegal. Like maybe it's easier to like reason with something else, because it's not, but you know, I go to a dispensary, this shit's all laid out, like it's fully legal, like there's no risque taboo attached to it. And I think that a lot of that like can feed into chaotic substance use. You know, that's not to say obviously people have problems with alcohol and it's legal and they can get it.
Sure.
So like that happens, but you know, it's my belief, like I have this inkling that like if things weren't treated as this taboo thing, there would be far less like problematic use of those things. And obviously people wouldn't be dying of fentanyl overdoses either.
Are you saying that by having a dispensary, you think it's going to feed people into chaotic use?
No, opposite. I think that by having something legal that's like this like standard like a way to get something, like it normalizes it and it takes out that taboo, and like it's you don't have that feeling, even if it's totally subconscious, you don't have that feeling that like I'm doing a sketchy drug, you know, and like there's not that side of it. And I don't know, like for me, like I never think about like, oh, I gotta get to the dispensary tomorrow, like I gotta make, it's just not a thought. Like neither is like going to the store to get my fucking Liquid Death. Like I don't think about it like that. Whereas like, you know, back in the day, like got to go to the weed man. Like, do I got enough money to go to the weed man?
I hope he
like
has some, you know, I hope I got to get to him before he runs out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now it's like if I run out, I'll go to the dispensary tomorrow and stock up. You know what I mean? You know, because you call a drug dealer, like he might not have it. Now you got to go on the hunt, you know, and all that kind of shit.
You know? And all the shit that comes with it.
Yeah, for sure, man. And also by having a dispensary, you know, some people might tell you that drug use is going to go up, and not just weed. You know, we talked about places that do like shoot where you can shoot up.
Oh, like a safe injection site. Yeah.
Or if you were to make, you know, heroin or something legal, you know, people think that's everyone's going to start using it.
Right.
You know, I don't smoke more because there's a dispensary.
No.
You know.
Yeah.
And if I don't do heroin, I'm definitely not going to go buy heroin from a dispensary.
They got them in Canada. They got them in the Netherlands.
Yeah, it's in not Ecuador, new shit. Like now they got 2 in New York, safe injection sites.
They're trying to get one in Philly.
Yeah. Well, they've Operation Safe Houses in Philly has been operating like illegally and unofficially for like 5 years, I think now. They shut them down because of the crack house bill. I think now they're operating again, but it's still like unofficial. Like it's a whole thing because there's a bunch of politicians and lobbyists fighting it, and then there's people that are trying to push it. But no, like exactly. Nobody's walking by a safe injection site who like doesn't do heroin and is like, oh shit, they got that now.
I don't have to worry about dying. Let's do this. I've always wanted to do heroin, and now I can do it safely. You know?
Just waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody has that thought. That's not a thing.
The other thing is like there's a social aspect to it with the AA and the abstinence-based stuff that keeps people. I don't want to say keeps people, but when someone, you know, does try and get away from, or thinks that, oh, maybe I can use success, or I can drink successfully, or I can smoke successfully, there's just as much fear. I'll speak for myself. There was just as much fear, like bringing that to the people I had gotten in sobriety with. Like they're not going to accept this. And I'm going to have to find a whole new social group. And for anybody who's in recovery, or I mean, anybody in general, like you don't have a social support system, like you're going to be, for a drug user or you know, an ex-heroin addict, it's very dangerous. It's a dangerous place to be. You don't want to be isolated ever.
Gotta have connection.
And so, you know, while AA is you know, the tight-knit, you know, not religious, what's the word? The cult kind of vibe, or you know, brotherhood aspect to it is great for that. And while you want to stay in that, it's going to keep you there. And that's great, and that saves lives, and nothing like directly wrong with it. But if someone, you know, tries to go in a different direction, I speak for myself. I mean, I'm sure you guys went through it too. Like,
I didn't talk about you know, going to medical until we started doing this. Man, I kept it hush hush. You know what I mean? I didn't tell anybody that I was smoking weed or having an occasional drink.
Secret.
Exactly. It forces you to be dishonest, or at least like you feel like you're being dishonest through lies of omission. 100%. And that shouldn't be. And
then I have all these people on Facebook that, you know, I went up in recovery with the AA thing, and then I got, you know, like you know, all the people that brought me up in recovery. You know what I mean? They're all AA or hardcore, you know, NA or you know, 12-step fellowship people. You know, and I know the second that they see it or found out or whatever, the phone calls were gonna come pouring in. Oh, Eddie's on a relapse. You know what I mean? He's gonna be shooting dope again. And you know what I mean? And I didn't want to deal with that. you know,
Who would?
and so I was okay with keeping it a secret because I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean?
that.
Like everything's good. My life is getting better every day. I'm looking at going to film school. There's all that. Like, so there's nothing
Yeah.
unmanageable about my life.
Right.
And, you know, again, going back, I don't look at what I'm doing as something that I'm chasing for a feeling. I do it for medicinal reasons.
Yeah.
So it's not even the same mindset as chasing dope.
Yeah,
You know, I'm not thinking. I don't have the same train of thinking. Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm not like fiending for it, and I gotta have it right now. You know, and then as soon as I do it, I need more. I don't see it that way. Now I'll never go back to doing dope. You know, I wouldn't even test that water. I know my limits. I'm okay with what I have. What I have now.
I can't touch any of that shit.
I don't want to try. You know, maybe I could, maybe I can't. I don't want to find out though.
Yeah, I don't want to find out.
You know, I was offered coke at a bar and I turned that down too. You know, I stick to what's natural. I as well. Like I like things that are more natural, rather than chemical. But yeah, it's a whole different mindset, and my 12-step fellowship friends probably wouldn't understand that because you know, like they've had that drilled into their head. You use a substance, doesn't matter what it is, that's it, you're done, you're back. You know what I mean? No, that's not the case. Not for everyone anyway.
And they get like that shit gets reinforced from like confirmation bias and stuff too, because like somebody does make that decision to go out and like test the water, so to speak, or like just try something different, and like you always hear like you'll be back, you know, like you're gonna relapse and you'll be back, and most of them are convinced that they're 100% right because in their own experience they are, because they're not like, they don't see all the ones that don't come back. But they for damn sure do see the ones that end up having to come back because they have to come back. Yeah. Because like it didn't work out for them. So like it's easy to see from that perspective that everybody just ends up coming back. It doesn't work for anybody. Yeah. Exactly. I've seen them come back 100 times. Well, what about so and so? What about the ones that didn't come back? You haven't seen in 3 years.
Yeah, they're probably dead.
Yeah, that's probably what you would hear. They're probably dead. Who knows they're dead?
Yeah. I know. There's probably fucking 20 people I know right now off the top of my head who think I'm dead. I mean, you know, maybe it's because I don't update my Facebook status that often. But,
true.
You know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been a year and a half since I was really invested in AA to that extent. But it's like, I don't know. To me, the whole thing is like, you know, a lot of us we get into, and not for me, but everybody has like trauma and shit they go through in life, and you know, sometimes drugs are used to like. We want to solve that. We want to make that shit go away. We don't want to think about it. But at the end of the day, like I feel like pretty much anyone who has a substance abuse issue, it started with an intimacy issue. And if you can't, like we use drugs so that we can be intimate, you know, like we want to be intimate. We want to, you know, it becomes a chemical sex, and then, you know, we're able to be social and we're able to be intimate, and, you know, it's like liquid courage. You know, you hear all these sayings. It's like that's really what we're craving with all this shit. So if we're not able to like meet each other and say like, okay, I'm still willing to like, you know, be intimate with you and like listen to what you're saying, even though, okay, maybe my belief system isn't in line with yours, but I'm still okay with like being your friend or like, you know, supporting you. Like that's just like, it's just so... It's dangerous, and it's scary.
Yeah, I think that's really insightful, actually. Drugs were definitely a means for me to connect with people, you know, and like and that's eventually like it becomes your only way to connect with people, you know, and
it helps me tolerate people.
Yeah, now they do. Before it was like, ooh, I want to get to know it. Now like, fuck you, like, shut up.
Like, you mean I gotta go talk to these people? Hang on.
Yeah, so, dude, 100%. It's funny how that flips because we're not using it for that anymore. You know?
Yeah. But I mean, it's true, and like that goes back to like that's the hip thing to say now is connection is the opposite of addiction and vice versa, you know, but like that's really what it comes down to. And like we deprive people who like need it of connection because like we don't think their recovery is good enough because it doesn't look like ours, or we don't think their recovery is real because it doesn't look like ours. You know what I mean?
Fascism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fascist takes.
Your recovery doesn't have blonde hair and blue eyes.
Exactly.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get from around here.
Yeah. So what what's your thoughts on like where you're at now, like versus where you once were early in recovery? Like how has your own experience grown and changed, shifted? I mean, we've beaten around that bush, but like what's your beliefs around that? And
well, I have to say, just me being me, I guess I was never completely sold on the whole AA idea, even though I bought in fully to the principles, to the steps. I'll say I bought into that. And for most of it, I believed I was powerless. I guess, I say that with a grain of salt because there was always that recess of my head, and then you always hear in meetings, any slight reservation on, your belief in your powerlessness is going to lead to your demise. And, so we got to squash that out. Can't talk about that.
Yeah.
So, that's off the table. But, as I went through my recovery, and I was abstinent for a little over 2.5 years before I went on a trip to Colombia and ended up, having a good time there. And that was an interesting experience, but,
nice.
It was a good time. And I realized that things were different. And I had grown up a lot in the 2.5 years I was abstinent, and I wouldn't trade anything for those. I got to say, sobriety is amazing. Anybody who's been sober in the rooms, some people have bad experiences. I guess it's usually it involves
People,
not
Egos.
actually living by the principles and doing what they think is
people and egos, man.
Exactly.
It's like anything.
Yeah.
Anytime you got a bunch
My
of people
recovery's
together.
better than yours kind of attitudes
Yeah.
in some people.
And
They
even
got
if-
the big book thumpers,
Right.
all that.
even if you're completely sober, they'll tell you that their recovery's better. It's like, what do you? What is this? Just because I didn't go to as many big book studies, or I'm not, hitting my knees 3 times a day.
not
like,
going
I
to
didn't,
5 meetings a day.
convert to Islam.
You
Like, fuck, man.
But they're scamming people in call rooms,
Right,
between
exactly.
meetings.
Yeah, I have 7 home groups.
Yeah.
Okay, like I have 7 home
I have
groups.
service commitment every hour of the day.
I do H&I and everything.
Everything.
All right, dude.
Everything.
Good for you.
Get
man.
like
I'm
me.
making coffee and chairing a meeting. It's like, wait, how's that even possible? Fucking possible. Doing it.
Well,
I
I mean, like he said, though, that's going to be anywhere you go. There's always going to be
Yeah.
Yeah.
somebody that your energy doesn't mesh well with.
Dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Again,
that's
that's
why
why I stay away from people.
That's why I can't do the organized religion thing. Like it's everything. Like
Yeah.
you get a common idea or set of ideas, and you get a bunch of people in it, whether it's AA, NA, Christianity, whatever, and like people are gonna fuck it up.
Yeah.
That's just because, and it's ego shit. It's like greed in a lot of cases,
Yeah.
or just like self-righteousness, want to be better than you or put some kind of value on anything. The fact that you can put like a value, or that, I don't want to say you can, the fact that people attempt to put like value judgments on like recovery
Yeah.
and based on like the things that aren't necessarily like what recovery is about, like just the number of meetings you go to or your number of service commitments, but
Yeah.
not like necessarily like the way that you live.
Right.
It's just checking
Who are
these
you?
boxes. Like I got 8 service commitments and chair 3 meetings a week, but like I said, like I'm scamming people in call rooms and like that, like
Yeah, being a
Yep.
dirty bastard.
those
Yeah.
and that's so common, like in Palm Beach County, like it
Yeah.
used to, that cognitive dissonance, that was honestly it wasn't as much I mean, like, I'd get annoyed by people shitting on MAT or whatever, like, people
Right.
just
Yeah,
trying to say
no.
some shit, but, like, at the end of the
old
day,
Alki talking about Suboxone.
right, the
Fuck out of here, dude.
old heads that have never seen a brig or a pipe, you
Yeah,
know, like,
yeah.
that they have no idea what it is. But regardless, like, I think the thing that was hardest for me to, like, grapple with was that, like, dissonance of, you know, like, I just didn't necessarily see, and not to, like, be the one standing and judging, but, like, I didn't see, like, what I wanted or what I wanted to be in a lot of people that were kind of, like, telling me what I should be,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
I just,
I mean, look what it's done to our political system. The whole
Yeah.
polarizing thing.
Yeah.
You're on one side or you're on the fucking other, you know? Like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Right.
I don't fucking like, you go to one side in either direction, you're probably in the wrong.
well, that's
You
what
know,
I
like
mean.
this-
Like, that's the religion.
Yeah.
That extremes on both sides. They're
Yeah.
both fucking religious cults,
Right.
basically, at this point. You know, like,
And
you
look
can't.
what's happened in the 60s.
Yeah.
You know, there
Yeah.
was more of a middle ground.
Yeah.
Politically, there was
Mhm.
more of a middle ground.
Yep.
Uh,
You know, you can't differentiate if you're on one side. You can't differentiate on another. And we take all these extremes, and, like, that, it's same thing in the recovery space and in the way that we approach drug policy and drugs and drug users. Like, we can't, like, look at the nuance and the like, real realities of it. We're
Yeah.
just looking at
yeah.
these
make
extremes
a
on all
rule.
sides.
Gotta
Yeah.
be this way or that
Yeah.
way.
Black and white.
And there's no other way.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
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 'Cause that's easy.
Right. Right.
It's easy to just, I'm going to make a rule on this right now.
Yeah.
Dude, everyone's different, and I just wish people would realize that. Like, it's not going to be the same for everybody.
Right.
What works for you might kill me, but what works for me might work for me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, just
Mhm.
let me do my thing. If I fail, I fail.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, don't internalize it.
Yeah. I
Don't,
mean,
don't make my
don't put your-
decision your fucking problem.
yeah. Don't put, you know, how you feel. I
Yeah.
mean, abstinence might be for you, but you don't have to push that on me,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Or devalue, like, whatever I do
Yeah.
just because, you know, like, that's
Because you
the
know
other
we never
thing.
fucking devalue what they do. Like I
Yeah,
don't
right.
ever
No.
talk to someone in in AA and say like, oh, you just don't know what the fuck you're talking
Right.
about. Like I get it.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like some days I'm like, oh man, I want to be sober again. I have those fucking days where I'm like, I'm done smoking. I'm done, doing whatever. I don't want to do any of it right now. I'm gonna be sober for a while.
Yeah, I ran into a guy the other day, and I was working my other job, and he mentioned being in recovery, and then we got to talking about it, and I was like, but I don't do the whole abstinence thing. He's like, dude, I don't care about that. How's the quality of your life? It was the best response
Yeah.
from a 12-stepper ever.
Yeah.
Like he's like, bro, I don't care. How's the quality of your life?
Yeah.
And I was like,
Gets
it's
it.
fan-fucking-tastic, actually.
Yeah.
Everything's going great. And he's like, that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to tell people all the time, like, recovery has nothing to do with getting away from the drug. It has everything to do with changing the way that you think. And as long as you can change the way you think in a positive way, it'll be a lot easier to step away from the drug.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, I don't know if you guys agree, but for me, that's what recovery is all about, is changing the way that I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And not so much the drug, but my brain.
Right.
That's what
'Cause that'll come with it.
Yeah. And the more I can change the way I think, the more I can gain strength in myself and confidence in myself and things like that, then it gets a lot easier to say, what, I don't need that.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Well, is there anything else you want to touch on? Any, like, final thoughts? Feel satisfied?
This is a good conversation.
Yeah.
Great convo.
Yeah, this was
for
fun.
sure.
I want
This
to
was
trip with you guys now. I think
We might have to do that. We might. Hey,
might have to plan
Doctor
one of those.
Strange,
Get
the new
Airbnb.
Doctor Strange movie's coming out on the 4th, man.
True.
I'm
Doctor
might
Strange.
have to make a thing out of it.
Yeah, we could do
yeah.
that.
Maybe, I'm thinking about starting, like, my own podcast kind of thing. Maybe we could just eat some mushrooms and talk shit.
It's funny that you brought that up, because I had an
That would be
idea,
fucking
and I'm going to talk about it now.
ridiculous.
Now that you brought it up, an idea where you and I would eat mushrooms, and we're we'll have people give us tasks to do.
Oh, I like that.
Like anything as small as putting a square peg in the square thing.
Yeah.
And then we can go into like who can find Waldo quicker. You know,
hell
like
yeah.
we can come up with these little games and we'll eat some mushrooms
I'll
and
kick your ass at Waldo, bro.
on mushrooms.
I have no idea.
So, I would
No, I
love
used
to
to
do
love
a
those
show.
things,
I would love
so.
to eat some mushrooms and do a fun
Yeah.
show like that. I think it would be fun.
Yeah.
Bring you like a Walmart or not a Walmart, a McDonald's, and make you jump in the ball pit. A little kids.
Yeah, bro.
that might be
Yeah.
a little too. Terrible.
We'll
Get the little
we'll have
pellets.
to
We can't do that for a podcast, obviously.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about
Yeah,
that one. I think
brainstorm some
we
shit
can do
for
something fun with that.
some little
sure.
fun side stuff.
It's gonna be a
Some
really
fun.
long show.
Yeah,
It's gonna be. It's gonna
we could break it up.
Yeah, we're gonna need some people here because we're not gonna be able to do much. Well, no, this is a good conversation, man. This
Yeah,
was
man.
be-
this is good.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks for being
Have
here,
to
man.
do
We
it again
appreciate
soon.
for sure. We'll have you back.
hell yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Isaac.
All right, we're out.
Yeah.